Kia ora koutou katoa. Today I'm going to show you the various functions and ways that you can use Google Scholar for scientific research purposes. So primarily if you have a research question, if you have a sort of vague interest in a specific area of science or linguistics in particular, how to approach using Google Scholar to find relevant published work that's out there in the world. So with Google Scholar, what we'll cover today is the familiarizing with the actual interface, how you can do a keyword search or looking for specific articles that relate to a specific topic, looking at the researcher profiles. So each we'll see how you can look for specific authors, how to use its citation functionality, and the other various features that come around with using Google Scholar. And I think this is why it's widely used by a lot of researchers in comparison to other research sort of libraries. So the first thing you probably want to do is navigate to Google Scholar. And you can do this just by simply searching for Google Scholar in a Google search. And you'll see that it's the first hit that comes up. So Google Scholar, and this is the URL, and this is where you want to go to. So the first thing you'll notice is that it looks very similar to a normal Google search. So you have this search bar, you have articles about COVID-19, just because that's probably a hot topic at the moment. But in the search bar, essentially what we can do is put in anything, and Google Scholar will tell or give you some results basically that relate to whatever you just searched for. So let's say our research question is to do with looking at R in New Zealand English. So let's say we want to search for R in New Zealand English. So just as with a normal Google search, what you do is type in some string of words that go together, and Google will do its magic algorithm to find some results. So the first thing that you'll see is that it puts the most relevant hits at the top. So R Sandy in early 20th century New Zealand English sounds pretty much related to what we put into our search bar here. A few things to note if you haven't used Google Scholar before. This is the actual title of the article. So every published article will have a title. You also have the author list. So listed here, we can see that it's a work produced by Hay and McLagan. The next section is the actual journal. So this is published in the journal Linguistics. And then next to that, you get the publication year, or the year of publication. So it was published in Linguistics in 2012 by Hay and McLagan, and it's titled R Sandy in early 20th century New Zealand English. Sounds pretty much related to our search bar there. You also get a few lines of text, which come from the abstract of the article. So obviously, if you are very pressed for time and you just want to do a quick visual search of is this paper actually relevant to what you're interested in, you can read the first few lines of the abstract, and then if you think it's going to be useful, you can just click on that link, and then the article will appear, depending on your internet connection. And there we go. And there you can see the full abstract, and you can get an impression of, is this article something that you probably want to read? And if you go back, what we can also see is that there are a few extra buttons that again differ from a normal Google search. We have here the cited by button. So you can see here that this actual piece of work has been cited 33 times. And if you click on that button, what happens is that it will come up with all the articles that have cited that specific paper. So you can scroll down, and there should be 33 unique articles that appear in this new box, or this new search that you've done. So what's really nice about this is that if a paper has cited a specific work that you think is relevant, chances are it's going to be also relevant to your research interest. You can see it here on the left-hand side. You can filter these searches by year. So if you want to see only the most relevant, if you want to see the only most recent articles that have cited this work, you can filter it by the year of publication again. So you can see here in 2020, this work has been cited once, and it's been cited by this paper here. So if we return back to our original search page, we can also see here that there's another button called related articles. So it might be the case that the related articles obviously might cite this paper, But it's also the case that it might just be a paper that's cited by that article itself. So here that you have the papers that are actually citing the specific article. But the nice thing about the related articles is that without having to read the paper, you can get an idea or a feel for what the surrounding literature is, whether that was published after the article in question, so after 2012 or before 2012. And these articles are likely going to be referenced within this article as well. So if you click on that, what you can see here is that there are other relevant articles. So you can see a perception of intrusive art in English by native, cross-language and cross-dialect listeners. That could be something you're interested in. And it was published in 2011. So there's a good chance that this paper may have been cited by Hay and McLagan as well. And let's return back to our original search page. You can also see here that there's all four versions. We won't focus too much on that button today though. What's really cool about Google Scholar is that obviously you can click on this button and the paper comes up most of the time. So it will take you directly to the publishing company and the journal where it's hosted. So you know that this is directly linked to where that paper has been published. What you might find when you're doing Google Scholar searches outside of your university internet connection is that you may be faced with a paywall like this. Please don't click on add to cart and pay 30 euros for this article. It's very likely that you can find this published article elsewhere on the internet. And more specifically, going outside of Google Scholar and using your university's library. So let's go back. And what I'm going to do is copy and paste. So I'm going to copy the title of this article. And then I'm going to open up a new tab and type in University of Canterbury Library. So I'm going to have a typo in there. So the University of Canterbury is where I'm based, and they have a library that I am, as a staff member or as a student, you will have access to your specific library. So what's really good about the libraries, obviously they have paid lots of money to these publishing companies for access to lots of science. If you can't necessarily find the article on Google Scholar directly, and I'll show you an example of when you can after this, what you can do is go directly through your library and you'll be assured that whatever the link takes you to is going to be the authorized version of that article. So in the University of Canterbury's library, what we can do is paste in the journal title and then click on this multi-search button. And very similar to the Google Scholar responses, what you get is a list of hits. Now you can see here that the top hit has come up as a successful hit. It's actually found this article. And what I'm going to do is click on that. It'll ask me to log in as a remote access. So I'm working off campus at the moment. Once I log in, hopefully this will take me to the actual page where that article is hosted. There we go. So you can see here that very similar to what we had before when we clicked on this link, it took us to this specific page. So when you clicked on the Google Scholar link before, what you got hit with was this paywall. But if you went through the university library and then clicked on it there, logged in with your login credentials, what's really nice is that the university library has found a way to access the article, and you can see here by full access. And if you scroll down, there you go. You have the PDF version of that specific article. And you can obviously download this as a PDF and then have it on your computer to read whenever you want without an internet connection. So, so far we've covered how to search for a specific topic, explore one of the top hits of that topic, find a way of accessing the abstract, but then using the university or the institution where you're at, using their library service to then access that article without having to pay anything, which is good. So just going to close these. So that's one example of where Google Scholar has been not able to offer a free accessible link to that specific paper. So let's give you an example of where Google Scholar, and this happens most of the time, actually has a PDF where all you need to do is find an article and then click on it. So let's click on the cited by paper, cited by button. And you can see here that on the right-hand side, when you get a hit, what tends to happen is that you get a button here that says PDF and then the source of that PDF. So this is really good because it shows you that this specific paper has been either made open access, so it's free to use by anyone, or they've hosted it on a server where you can access it individually. So it might be the author's copy, for instance. So if you click on the button to the right-hand side, this should take you directly to a PDF version of that paper. And you can see here that this was a paper published in Cognition, and you get the full article right away. So there's no need to bypass a paywall and go through your university library. What you get is the actual article just by clicking on that button. If you click on all 12 versions, you can see here that there are various different PDF sources. So this one is hosted by an Arizona University repository, whereas that one's hosted by an academia.edu repository. So that's an example of how you can quickly and easily access a journal article as a PDF version. So go back to our R in New Zealand English page. What you can also see here is that if we focus on this specific paper, you can see here that the author was a well-known person called Jen Hay and Margaret McLagan. So Jen Hay, if you click on her name, you can see the underline, it opens up a link to that person's page. So Google Scholar is really great because if you're a researcher, you can set up your own profile page and have all of your articles in one simple place. So you can see here that it's these are the articles that you can look at. So Jen Hay has published this article, this article, this article, etc., and that's referenced by the number of times it's been cited and the year of publication. So if you click on the year button, this will then reorder that column by the year of publication. So the most recent ones are coming up on top. And this is a really nice way. If you're finding a researcher is relevant to your research question and they've published quite a lot of stuff on it, and you want to find quickly and easily their most recent up-to-date work, this is one way you can do it. So you can see here that these are the relevant articles, and you also have their co-authors. Chances are if a researcher has collaborated with someone, they may also be working on similar sort of topics. So let's say we are interested in going back to our New Zealand English paper. What we can do is if we click on the cited by button again, so this picks up all the articles that are cited this specific paper. Now, what's really great about this is that there's also a button that does search within citing articles. So it may be the case that you have a very, very widely cited paper, so cited by hundreds and hundreds of people. And it's very hard to find a specific reference or a specific paper that's referencing that article. But what's really nice about Google Scholar is that if you tick this little search within citing articles button, you can then narrow down that search within the citing articles. So for instance, if we're interested in Southland and papers that are citing or have some sort of reference to Southland within that specific paper by Hay and McLagan, so R. Sandy in earlier 20th century New Zealand English, is there any work that's citing that paper that also refers to Southland? So if we do that search, what we're finding here is that these are the papers that are actually referring directly to Southland within this specific paper. And you can see here that in the abstract sort of breakdown of the 3 lines, this paper by Villarreal et al., telling a new story with all data, random forest classification, pre-vocalic are in Southland New Zealand English. So this paper looks like it's actually using some sort of interesting thing about Southland English. And then you can see various other ones, and using the little abstract chunk section, these will actually maybe look at the whole paper and see where Southland might be referred to in that paper. So let's say we're interested in this paper, From Category to Gradients, Autocoding, Sociophonetic Variation with Random Forest, because we think it's directly referencing Southland, and we're interested in looking at Southland and how that relates to R in New Zealand English. So we can click on this link here, and it will take us to the HTML version of the paper. So again, this is a free to access and easy to obtain science or like an open research paper. Now we can see here that there's the abstract, and you get the full paper that emerges below. So what I'm going to do is do a quick search within this paper for Southland. And using this, obviously just doing a keyword search within a paper, we're picking up on various Southland hits. So this paper is obviously referring to Southland quite a lot of the time. But let's say we read this section here. As described in 4.1 below, the data for building our R random forest classifier came from a corpus of Southland English. So perhaps we're interested in understanding more about this Southland corpus. Maybe you're using it for a research project. Let's scroll down to section 4.1. So within this specific paper, it seems that these authors are using a corpus of Southland English, and we want to find out a bit more about where that corpus comes from. So if you scroll down a bit more, you can find this sentence. The R training data came from 28 sociolinguistic interviews conducted for Chris Bartlett's 2002 doctoral thesis corpus, recorded in Southland in 1992, speakers born between 1904 to 1977. So that sounds very much like it's referring to a specific corpus of Southland English, but might be related to our realizations in New Zealand English. So what tends to be the case with more recent publications is that you can see here that there is a link to this specific reference. So if you click on that link, it will take you directly down to the reference section of that paper. And what you'll find in this reference section is the full citation of that paper. So by Bartlett in 2002, there was a doctoral thesis that covers this corpus of Southland English. Now you can see here that the other articles in this reference section have a unique DOI. So a DOI is a link or a unique identifying link that will send you directly to that paper or the journal's version of that paper. So for instance, if you click on this link, it will open up a new tab, and then that will take you directly to that paper. Now with our Bartlett example, however, we don't have a DOI for this, and this might just be because it's was done in 2002. It was a doctoral thesis. So let's again look at doing a copy and copy and paste search of that paper. Just find it, yeah, there we go. So I'm going to type this in and then go straight to Google. And just by using Google alone, so not having to go through Scholar, you can see here that it's appearing on this page. And if you look at this URL, it's hosted by the University of Otago. So let's click on this, and you know that it's a sort of a research article or a Scholar article because it's got these very familiar bits of information. This is the author, this is the year, and then that cited by button as well. So let's click on this and see what comes up, and hopefully we'll get something that is our article of interest. So what tends to be the case is, well, a lot of universities actually host all their publications and their scientific outputs within their own repositories. So libraries are really good. They're able to host any sort of academic work that's been published or has been outputted by the people at the university. So for instance, especially with PhD thesis articles, what tends to be the case is that you'll find a university host it within their own university library, but you don't have to be a member of that university or that library to get access to it. So you can see here that it's got a citation, it's got the date and various other bits of information. But the key thing that you might be interested in is downloading this article or this PhD thesis because it's relevant to your research and you want to read it. So once you click on this link, you will see that a new download has completed, and then you can click on that link, and then here is that article. So this is Christopher Bartlett's PhD thesis. And now if you read that article and spend lots of time looking through all the pages, you'll probably find a lot of information that is relevant to Southland English and the corpus that has been used or has been created in this publication. So let's go back to our original search, R in New Zealand English. So there we go. What we've done so far is we've done a keyword search. We've been able to access an article, both by using Google Scholar's PDF buttons, so this way of accessing articles. We've also been using university libraries to do direct searches to get around paywalls. We've also been finding ways to just do basic searches for a specific article in Google, taking you to a repository and then downloading that article via, again, a university repository. We've looked at citing pages, so looking at relevant research that cites that work. So are there specific things that are relevant to that article because they've cited the work? So obviously when you're citing an article in your own article, chances are it's going to be relevant to some sort of research question or topic. What I'd like to finally just wrap up with is you'll see here that there's the quotation button here. So these quotation buttons are really handy. So when you click on it, it pops up with a citation box. And here that you've got is 5 different ways of citing this specific article. I tend to use APA as my citation format. So you can see here that this is the specific article and it's already formatted for you. So in your references section, all you need to do is copy and paste and maintain, if you're sticking with an APA citation format, all you need to do is copy and paste that into your references section and it's there ready to go. These are really handy. So if you use BibTeX or LaTeX, you can then click on that and then there's the article ready for reference. But again, you can just copy and paste this in and it's nice and easy for you. Another really nice thing about the Google Scholar functionality is that they have a specific widget. So if you open up a new Google search and you type Google Scholar widget, you'll see here that you can get a Google Scholar button if you're working or if you're using the Chrome web browser. So the Google Scholar button, if you can't see it already, let me just move this down to the bottom. This is what the Google Scholar button is. So instead of having to open up a new page each time and then typing in Google Scholar and going to that page, what you can do is download this widget and then have it there in your web browser ready to use. So why is this really handy? So it saves me a lot of time because all I need to do is say, highlight this specific string of text, click on the Google Scholar button, and then there you go. You've got all that information right away. So let's say outside of Google Scholar, so if I'm on this page, or let's say I'm interested in this paper, non-prevocalic R in New Zealand hip hop, again, highlight it, and there you go. You're picking up all that information just by highlighting a string of text. Google Scholar button is able to search for that really quickly, and then you can do exactly the same things. You can use the citation button. There's the citation in APA format again. You can click back. You can star it if you're interested in going back to it again. You can get the PDF. You can click on the cited by button. Again, these are the papers that have cited this specific article. So yeah, the Google Scholar widget button is really handy for doing very quick searches. And it has all the other functionalities of standard Google Scholar. And I'm going to wrap up with that. So, yep, I hope it was useful.